Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it's a very significant decision you have today. It will have a permanent impact on the nature of the city, how it looks. And under the process, I'm really pleased that Tom has made clear, as he did when talking with me on Friday, that you can approve this project or you can disapprove this project, but that would be a terrible decision as far as I'm concerned to have to make because there are lots of elements in the project that you might want to consider. So the third alternative is that you can modify elements such as density, height, design features, or you can, if uncertain about those things, you can return this to the staff and ask them to work with the applicant to see what they can modify, if there's any dimensions you would like modified, and the Planning Commission can do that. I would like to drop to my last paragraph first in case time runs out. If this proposal was a normal development, more modest in height and in intensity or density, many of the questions that I'm about to pose to you, and I have 5, might be answered, and the proposal approvable. And I would hope the council will move in that direction. In other words, I'm not against this project as a CMU or as a condo hotel, but I think there are problems with it as it's presented today. And if those problems can be answered, then I could understand why you would ask staff to continue going on to it. First of all, everyone knows that the city residents have said time and again they'd like a small town feel, and they would like the wish for scale and impact of the city to reflect the Nolan legacy. And the hotels that Mr. Boone mentioned are roughly 40 feet tall in the Nolan plan. In June, Mr. Slaughter said, quote, "If the Planning Commission confirms the project is consistent with the consensus established by City Council regarding building mass and scale, mix of uses, and appropriateness of design, then the staff recommends approval." He left that choice up to the Planning Commission. Is this consistent with what you folks think, or is it not? Staff did not say whether they thought it was or not. Question 1, is the City Council satisfied there has been sufficient public discussion that 4 80-foot buildings and a density of 100 units per acre is acceptable building mass and scale? I don't remember any extended discussion with the public over this concept, nor do the minutes of the Planning Commission reflect any substantive discussion at that time. Question 2, the applicant describes this project as being in downtown Venice. That's in their application, ending at its eastern terminus in the Intercoastal Waterway. Is it appropriate to allow 80-foot heights and 100-foot densities in downtown Venice? Has that been decided as official policy by the City Council? My impression was the City Council was feeling that downtown Venice should be of a different scale. If the Venice Gondolier and the Ewing Funeral Home directly across East Venice Avenue, would you like me to stop?
Yeah. Yeah, we got a disruption going on.
You okay, Mike?
We okay?
Sorry for the interruption.
Sorry.
No, I'm happy. I'm glad no one was hurt. I thought maybe someone had an illness or something. Okay. If the Venice Gondolier and the Ewing Funeral Home directly across East Venice Avenue were to request extensions of their buildings to 80 feet, perhaps adding condominiums above and some retail space, would such changes be acceptable in your view? In other words, in short, what has the council decided on in this area? Now, the CMU zoning says that the maximum building structures by right are 35 feet, that the City Council can allow building to 80 feet when it's deemed conducive to additional height without negatively affecting other properties. It does require you to have a finding that such activity of granting additional height will not adversely affect the public interest. That satisfactory provision, and I'm quoting, I'm reading from this, an arrangement has been made concerning the following matters: general compatibility with adjacent properties and other properties in the district, scale of development, the relationship of the project in terms of its size, height, bulk, massing, intensity, aesthetics, and surroundings. So does this proposal requesting not normal development, that is 35 feet as in the code, but the absolute maximum allowed 80 feet, might be called, by me at least, as excessive development, Does that meet the criteria of compatibility and scale? Is the public good as expressed by the preference for smaller scale and small town feel being met? That's one of the questions. The Gifford Insurance Building immediately adjacent is 2 stories. The proposed building will approximately, right next to it, be 4 times its height. The nearby garage and gas station and the shopping plaza across Tampa Avenue are 1 story. Across Venice Avenue, the Gondolier building will be about as half as tall, and the Ewing building less than half that. This complex will also tower over the bridge, impacting on each person entering the city from the east. Most significantly, as the proposal states, this complex is in, quote, downtown Venice, where the council has expressed a preference for 35 feet, possibly 45 feet with special approval for parking. By the way, for a person in a wheelchair, and I mentioned to Rick, and he said it would be good if I would bring this up, really the only entrance in this building is through the garage. People are going to have to go into the garage, and it may be a very attractive garage and so forth, but the elevators are not outside the building. There are steps at each end so that people who need help will have to walk through or go into the garage in order to get upstairs. Question 4 deals with the additional criteria. Building height should transition, quote, from the maximum building height to a lower height when directly adjacent to lower intensity residential or commercial land uses, like the Haydens and the others I mentioned. Waterways or designated height restrictive overlay zones. 2, proportion and scale should be considered for taller building structures to create a, quote, tapering effect of the building mass, unquote, for structures greater than 35 feet. The plan does have a 65-foot building down from the 4 80-foot buildings approaching the waterway. It does not transition from the Hayden and other buildings. The drawings do not suggest a tapering effect. It could be that the buildings are in fact tapered as required, but I didn't look that way in the plan. 5, and finally, how is the council going to be able to approve a density of 100 units per acre without any supporting information justifying that extraordinary density? 290 units and 2.88 acres. Even in Sarasota, the core zoning is a maximum of 50 units per acre, core downtown zoning. A condominium in Venice would be limited to 18 units per acre. A hotel might have 36 units per acre, but if a certain number had kitchens, as these do in both the single rooms and not, the limit would be dropped to 18. I find no justification in the application or from the staff that presents information from comparable buildings, no models for you to follow, nothing that says, here's how 100 units works out economically and in a town and so forth. As Mr. Miller mentioned, the condo hotel owners can live in the hotel for 6 months. Supposing they choose to live in the unit from October through May. The hotel would only be available in what is essentially the summer. Persons supporting this project have expressed a hope that visitors to the hotel would stimulate business downtown. If there are 145 owners, by the way, these rooms, these suites are 3-room suites. They're almost 1,500 feet, which is a small house. They're not hotel rooms in that sense. If there are 145 of these owners living 6 months in their in their condominiums, I think the impact on business would be really quite limited. You'd be dealing with 145 additional families. Again, what data are available that might help the council judge the positive economic impact of this massive complex? We do know it will change the look of the city forever. If this proposal was a normal development, more modest in height and density, many of these questions might be answered and the proposal approvable, so that I hope the council will move in the direction that Mr. Slaughter pointed out, either modifying today the scale and height and scope of these buildings, or asking Mr. Miller and the staff to work toward a manageable hotel condo, but one that is not so massive. Thank you.
Thank you.